Here we have a challenge where we are given an h. So h of x, or this function h, this is a composite function of the absolute value of 9x plus 6. And what this question is asking us is to find what f of x and g of x are so that the composite function f of g of x is equal to h. Now this question, for those of you doing your homework, is a multiple choice question. So you don't have to go to quite the steps that I'm going to go to because one of them is going to be very, very clear to you. So when I'm looking at a composite function like this, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it here. So 9x plus 6. I have a couple routes that I can go, but I do know that my outside shell, right, which is my f function, is going to have absolute values on it because my total function here has absolute value on it. So I know that whatever my f of x is, it's going to have absolute value. And then my g of x, whatever that is, could be the junk inside. It does not need to have absolute value. So the easiest thing, right? So let's look at the easy version. The easiest version would be that my f of x, or my outside, is just the absolute value of x. And then that would mean that all the junk that's contained inside would be my g of x. So this 9x plus 6, so 9x plus 6 would be my g of x. So let's go ahead and test this out. So I would have the absolute value where I'm leaving space to put my g of x in. And then if I put my g of x on the inside, that would be 9x plus 6, which equals h, which is 9x plus 6. Okay, so that's one way to tackle it. Another way to tackle it might be to look at something that maybe is in common in here and see if we can pull that out. So I see that 3 goes into both of those. So maybe instead of, so this is, we'll call this moderate. Instead of just the absolute value of x, maybe I want to consider that f of x could be, and I'm going to pull out that 3x. Oh, let me get that a little cleaner here. So 3x. If that is true, then this, whatever is on the inside has to be able to come up with that same amount, right? So that means that g of x, right, by the time I multiply 3 through all of this, has to be my g of x. So what I'm going to do is remove a 3, or factor out a 3, and so that leaves me with 3x plus 2. Now let's go ahead and check that. If I'm doing this function, I would put 3 and then leave a big parentheses for my x, and then I would stick my guts on the inside, so 3x plus 2. So that's going to give me 9x plus 6 in absolute value. So this one will also work. So both of these solutions, where f of x is equal to the absolute value of x and g of x is equal to 9x plus 6, or f of x is equal to 3x and g of x is equal to 3x plus 2. So why do we need to know this? Once you get into calculus, which is the next step in your math journey, you are going to need to be able to do what's called U substitution, which means you need to kind of pick apart what would look like a composite function into its individual parts. So this is giving you some practice to do that so that you'll be successful by the time you hit that.